Welcome to the Incredible Podcast. I am your host, Jason Seaver, and we're here with Mona Sharif. She's the Incredible Innovations Officer for Incredible Marketing. And we're going to talk today about a little bit about building your practice and some of the things that we do without noticing it even, where we end up failing, and some of the things that we can do to make sure that we win. So, Mona, tell us a little about yourself.
I've been with the company for a very long time. I won't say how many years. And my job kind of includes, building business in general and helping our clients build businesses that thrive and succeed. So,
yeah, and also just a side note, if you guys prefer to read content, we have all the show notes that we're going to put in our blog. You can head over to our blog to get everything, the breakdown of why we win, why we fail. And you can read that.
Awesome. It's an interesting topic. I think that it can be, you can look at it from a bird's eye view, or you can get really detailed with it. But, from my experiences, I've kind of, and this is something that you'll hear a lot of different business people speak of, but from my experiences working specifically with a lot of medical practices, I've found that there are a few reoccurring trends with why some of the practices in the businesses kind of fail and, like you said, flounder and kind of feel like they're treading water. Yeah. And then why some, they break through and they seem like they're thriving and they've built a lot of momentum and they're succeeding.
Well, why don't we start off with how they fail?
How they fail?
Yeah. What are these big things that really cause a lot of these practices to sit and tread water?
Treading water. I would say one of the biggest reasons why people feel like they're not really launching or moving towards a bigger goal is because they are reactive. Mm-hmm. I've found that, and this is something that you can apply to your personal life as well. If you are constantly in a state of reaction, it becomes very exhausting. So basically, you're in that state when you feel like you're always trying to keep up, mm-hmm. and you're just constantly looking around and reacting to what people are doing around you. You're looking at what your competitor next door is doing, or you're looking at what another practice, maybe across the country is doing. And you're just like, oh, we should do that, or we should take up that trend, or we should, I saw them run this special. We should run a special like that. Mm-hmm. And all you're really doing is reacting to what someone else is doing. And so it starts to feel like you're never going to catch up.
So rather than you sitting down and going, I've got some great ideas, it's you looking around and going, oh, shoot, I'm missing out on this opportunity. Oh, no, they did this. We've got to catch up. We're always clawing at
exactly.
trying to catch up.
And some people, they don't even realize they're being reactive because it comes in a form of like, oh, that idea is so cute, or I love that special, or I love the way that their logo looks. I want something similar. I want to do something like that. And you don't really realize that you are actually reacting to them and not establishing your own
Now,
way.
Is there a little bit of healthy reaction? Is there kind of because sometimes I think we're all guilty. We look around and go, that's an awesome idea, or I really like that, or like you said, that's a really cute logo, or whatever. Yeah. Is there a little bit of healthy reaction?
Actually, yeah, definitely. I think so, because especially if you were to think about the world of social media marketing and internet marketing, you need to react really quickly to trends. So let's say, for example, like there's a hashtag that came out that people are using, let's say, for example, there's the hashtag Doctors of Instagram, for example, like for a while that was trending really high. You want to know when that stuff is happening and you want to react quickly to that sort of thing. You can't, wait too long to jump on a bandwagon if there's like a dance challenge that you and your team want to do, or something of that nature, So you do, yeah. That is a good point. There's times when you want to react and you need to react quickly.
So what are some of the other ways that we can fail?
The other ways that I've seen businesses kind of fail is they get stuck in the rut of comparison, mm-hmm. And again, this can be applied to your personal life as well, where essentially you are, comparing yourself to other people and comparing yourself to what you seem or think to be their successes versus your failures. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you fall back into reaction mode. Yeah. And, there's a quote by Teddy Roosevelt that I love, which is comparison is the thief of joy. And, and in so many ways it is, because you're robbing yourself of who you can be and how bright you can shine.
Yeah, and it also, I think it creates a certain level of anxiety rather than enjoying your practice, running your practice and your business and getting the most out of it and going to work every day happy. You're constantly living in this angst where you're, oh no, I'm not quite doing this right because this person's doing it right, or what they perceive as right, and it's not a fun way to live. We only have a short life, and we should at least be getting the joy out of the thing that we do.
Especially as an entrepreneur, business owner, you should be really proud of yourself. That you have built this practice, you've built this establishment, you have a team. There's a lot of things that you should be constantly reminding yourself that you've done that are amazing, and be thankful for those blessings. And if you're comparing yourself, you're just, like you said, you're not doing that and you're anxious. So I've seen that happen time and time again.
I think both of those go on the keeping up with the Joneses thing. And it's a hard thing not to do, especially these days with social media and the way the world is. But
it's always in your face.
The more you are yourself, the happier you'll be.
I guess the other, two main points that I'd like to bring up is, failing to stick to a strategy. So, and usually that kind of falls back into points 1 and 2. So you have this goal in mind, you have the strategy in place that you want to have to reach the goal. And then you start to think about, okay, what are the tactics? What are the daily things I'm going to do to put it all into motion? And then you get excited. It's the beginning of the year. You've crafted, this game plan for your business, but you don't end up following through with it because you see someone online, start to compare yourself to them, and then you start to react to them. And then you kind of fall back into points 1 and 2. So failing to stick to a strategy.
I would say I'm guilty of that a lot, and I think we all are, where we have a goal set in mind, and sometimes you just get distracted with the day-to-day. It doesn't have to be necessarily by looking outside yourself, but just there's other things that come up, and by not sticking to your strategy, you're just continuously winding back, and you're not able to do the big things that really make a difference, and you're just trying to keep up with the day-to-day.
True.
So I think it's important to make sure you set aside that time to achieve the goals that you set.
Absolutely. That's so true, because everybody gets busy with their commute and their kids and their patients and their job and their, day-to-day tasks. Like, you have to also set time aside to execute projects, for your strategy. That's such a good point, actually.
Yeah. And even if the hard thing is too, some of us want to get everything done in one day.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those guys, if I can't finish the project that day, it gives me a lot of anxiety to still have something open. But if you could just set aside a couple, bite-sized chunks, if you will, I think that'll help some people stick to their strategy and make sure that they always are working to achieve those goals that they set in the beginning.
Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of business owners understand the importance of setting time aside. I mean, the amazing author Toni Morrison, who recently passed away, she would wake up at 4 a.m. every day to set time aside just to write new things, and then her day would start, where she would work on her different tasks. So kind of figuring out how you're going to schedule things out to work on projects too.
Yeah, and that could be a whole nother conversation
Definitely.
About how to plan and prioritize. But
which I actually need to watch to learn from other people, so I won't talk about that too much.
Hey, maybe if you do that, then you talk about it. They say you always learn when you teach something, so maybe that could be something
True.
that you talk about and you learn from it too.
The last point that I'd bring up is why people, why some practices or businesses fail, I feel, is when people don't know who they are and they don't know what their standards are. And it becomes really, really difficult to create a brand or a voice or something that resonates with people if you just aren't sure who you are or what you're really in the business of.
Yes, that's a huge one. And I think it's hardest for, doctors who have spent their whole career in, their whole time up to that point going to school, learning about their specialty, and then it comes time to build a brand, and they don't know anything about building a brand. That's a difficult thing to do. And so for you to sit and realize how important it is to figure out who you are and stick with it, a lot of times people don't do that. And that's, makes a lot of sense.
I feel like the hardest practices I've ever had to work with over the course of my career are the ones who just don't know who they are. They don't know what their aesthetic is. They don't know who their patient demographic is. You ask them, who are you looking to target? And the answer is females between the ages of 25 to 60. And you're just like, okay, so everybody? So those are some of the the big factors in my mind.
Well, now that we know what not to do, tell us about a few ways that we can win or do things right. Those businesses that are thriving, what are they doing right?
There's so many ways to answer this question, but in relation to kind of what we outlined earlier, I guess I would say, you have to know who you are. You have to know what you stand for. And one of the quickest, quick little, I guess you could say, like little exercise that I found that really works with people is by asking yourself a question, which is, what are you in the business of?
Okay.
And say to myself, okay, I'm in the business of transformation.
Okay.
I'm in the business of confidence. I'm in the business of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start to kind of add the humanity to what you do in a way, it really helps you clarify like what your purpose is. And when you're able to attribute those kinds of qualities to what you do, I found that it really helps you fall in love with what you do.
Okay.
And,
is there ever a time where you could want two of those things, three of those things, where you're in the business of, a few of those, or is that the exact problem? Is you feel like you might be in the business of all of it, but realistically, you're not casting a small enough net?
I think you can, for example, I'm in the business of transformation. I'm in the business of confidence, like things that complement each other, for example, would be a good one. But you want to make sure that if it came down to it, it would be beautiful for someone to say, I'm in the business of X. I mean, I don't see a problem with that sort of thing, but those types of things kind of help you know who you are and the value that you want to give to people.
So what are some other ways that we can
let me see. So some other ways is having a strategy, and having a strategy, I think, comes down to having a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And so another exercise that I've enjoyed doing with some of my clients is saying, okay, well, what's your goal? My goal is to be known as the best doctor, the best surgeon in my city for breast revision, for example. Okay. So what is your strategy for getting there? Well, my strategy is that I want to, for example, let me just trace that back. My goal is to have, increased revenue in breast revision, for example. My goal is to make, $1 million in revenue in this procedure in 2020. So then you would say, okay, what's your strategy? Well, my strategy would be that I want to be known as the authority in this treatment, in this area, as like the absolute educational hub for breast revision.
Okay.
Anything you'd want to know, my website, or I have the answer for it. And then from there, I would say, okay, what are the tactics that we're going to employ to get the strategy into motion to reach the goal?
Okay.
So the tactics, and this is something that, our teams do with the different clients, is the tactics would be like, okay, quarter one, we're going to do these 3 videos with these subsequent blog posts that are going to talk about these topics that revolve around breast revision. Quarter 2, we're going to bring in an influencer who's going to do a breast revision, and she's going to talk about her experience, and I'm going to be in the video, and then quarter 3, we're going to drive it home with some sort of a, call to action or hot time limit on something. So, and those might not even break down into a quarter, but those are kind of your tactics. And so
steps, if you will.
The steps, yeah. And not every single tactic succeeds. You could try 10, 15 different things, and maybe, 5 of those don't really work out. But that's okay, because not every single tactic needs to be amazing and reach its full potential, because it works out in the aggregate.
Yeah, but also, and going back to why we fail, just making sure that you stick to it and you don't get too sidetracked. You don't just get overwhelmed with everything else going on.
Yeah.
You can fail at some of those as long as you're working towards that goal the goals that you set, your strategy.
Mm-hmm. And then also that you don't become reactive. So you see like your competitor, for example, like, okay, my competitor is doing Instagram lives every Friday. Maybe I should do that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, no, maybe you should stick to the strategy, which says that you're going to put out a video with, captions on the video on every Thursday and stick to that and help and build momentum and stop cutting off your momentum.
I see there's a lot of correlation between the fails and the wins, but and also within the fails and wins, and kind of there's definitely a common theme between a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Is there any other ways that we can win? Because that's what we want to do in the end is win.
Is
right?
win. Win. No, I mean, mindset, is super important. I think that, when people say like, your mindset determines the course of your life and your day and your energy and what you're putting out there and how you're feeling, it's true. Mm-hmm. We have to be really, really careful with what we're allowing ourselves to consume, online or in life, which is going to influence our mood and our mindset. But I think one of the things that I realized that's really important is we have to really be careful with what we apply love and passion to and what we apply like hate or disdain to. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've realized is that, if you go around and you say things to yourself like, oh, I hate social media, I hate posting on Instagram, and I hate dealing with it, you're going to be less likely to do it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be less likely to do it well. Yep. And then what you end up doing is cutting off your own potential of reaching new patients because you've just applied hate to one of the largest social media platforms out there.
Yeah.
If you say, I hate email marketing, well, then you're not going to be tapping into a list of all of your past patients or potential patients and continuously letting them know about what you're up to because you're kind of killing that thing when you apply hate to it.
That's a really, really good point, something I haven't thought about. And I would say, without telling you which one of those I am guilty of hating one of the things that you mentioned.
Which, you don't want to tell us which one it is?
I'm not going to tell you which one it is because I'm going to go back and rethink my the way that I think about it and try to apply less hate and then eventually no hate to it. So maybe those will thrive a little bit more, hopefully.
Be careful with what you say you hate because you could be kind of removing it from your life. And if you're removing it from your life and it's a possible revenue stream and you're a business owner, then you need to really think about that.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. That's something I've never really thought about, but is very, very, very true. You talked to me a little bit earlier about kind of casting the size of the net that you cast, if you will. And we always get a little bit caught up in trying to do everything and be everything. And sometimes that dilutes your business. So
yeah, I mean,
just a little bit about that.
That's true. Like what I was mentioning, it's really hard when you're working with someone, you say, who's your target audience? And they say 20 to 65. And it's just like, okay, well, let's narrow that down a little bit. And if you have a really hard time narrowing that down, one exercise that I like to do is ask the client and ask yourself, okay, who am I not targeting? If I feel like, okay, I'm obviously that earlier demographic is way too large. Well, who am I not going after? And then you can kind of start to deduct from there. You might say to yourself, well, I could tell you that I'm not going after, the Groupon customer. I'm not going after, the patient who wants extreme results or who wants, different reality TV show star vibes. Like I'm not going after that type of patient, Okay, so then we know okay, well, we can cut down from interest there. We can cut down from different targeting with ads or with different post language by not going after that. Okay, for example, I'm not going after, the natural person who's, very subconscious about plastic surgery or getting something done. So if you can at least tell yourself who you're not going after, I'm not going after, the 25-year-old who just wants lip fillers. These types of answers can help you. Or I'm not going after, the 50-year-old who's looking for, different types of fillers or Botox. I'm going for someone else. Like you can start to kind of deduct from there who you're going for, who you're not. So if you feel like you are getting too watered down, maybe start from there. That's one way that I've seen people are able to cast a smaller net.
Now, does this also apply to the other side of it with the services that people provide? Do you find that sometimes people will go, well, they're doing this, and this, we should probably try to introduce that into our practice when they might not be best for the revenue streams or they might not be set up in their practice for offering, 50 different services when they should really focus on something like, if their specialty was breast revision and want to introduce, I don't know, Botox or something weird that's kind of out of their realm of specialty. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that's too big of a problem. I think a lot of the things in the aesthetic space are very complementary. So you can have an array of different treatments. You can have an array of different patients, but sometimes you want to focus on one procedure. Like, for example, let's stick to breast revision because that's the one that you want to be like a steady revenue stream for you. You want to establish yourself there. That doesn't mean that you should not focus on increasing business and revenue through other things, an esthetician with different med spa type procedures offered, or even if you were to offer those things as a doctor yourself, those things don't cancel each other out. It's just about making sure that you have at least, 1 to 3 tangible goals that you want to establish yourself for. So you could be, for example, you could be an ice cream parlor who creates the most amazing ice cream from scratch and also happens to offer milkshakes and also happens to offer sorbets.
I just found out that Cold Stone offers milkshakes, by the way, and I'm really excited. I've never tried it. Apparently they are fantastic. So,
oh my gosh,
anybody
I don't
listening,
remember the last time
try
I had
them.
One.
Yeah, I've only had their ice cream, but I can imagine if their ice cream's that good, their milkshakes are probably pretty darn good.
There you go.
There
So
you
if you go in and you have an amazing experience with the surgery, then you're going to be like, well, my surgery, which is a complicated procedure, I'm so happy with that. I'm sure that I'm going to be fine doing my med spa services there too.
Yeah, that
and
makes
so
sense.
you kind of cross-pollinate.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else? Any other final points that you want to make? Or?
Any other final points? It's really important to just make sure that you are constantly falling in love with what you do and staying in love with what you do.
I think that's a great one.
I think that kind of comes back to remembering what you're in the business of and why you started doing what you're doing. And when you reestablish those things in your life and that becomes part of who you are, part of your business, you're going to enjoy going to work every day.
Yeah.
And that's, one of the things that are going to resonate the most with your patients when you're talking to them is just seeing that you love what you do.
And to that point, actually, for continuously loving what you do and focusing on it, these tips don't just apply to new businesses. These apply to this isn't just starting your business and going, okay, here's how I can fail. Here's what I need to do to win. At any point in your journey, you can take a step back and look at this and go, okay, maybe I need to, whatever it happens to be, maybe I need to actually start sticking to my strategy. Maybe I need to change this, and any of these can apply at any time. You could have your practice for 20 years. And if you want to just kind of say, okay, I feel like we're losing ourselves a little bit. What can we do to make sure that we're still going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You could start, changing the course of how you want to be perceived at any time. I mean, it's not something that you should look at as, oh, this is going to be an overnight thing. This is something you need to commit to, and your strategy, like I said, your tactics can fail, but your strategy, you have to commit to it. And if you do that, and, like I said, you can start at any time, whether you are just out of residency and you're looking to start, your first practice, or you've been in business for 20 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Mona, for joining today and sharing all of your knowledge, and we appreciate it so much. Join us next time on The Incredible Podcast.